Coming up next on the Jeff Crilley Show, is the financial services industry solving the wrong problem? We'll answer that question next.
Many are predicting that the worst is yet to come, which is unfortunate, said one person here. Until now, they've enjoyed the reputation of being the nation's icebox.
Watched a burglar in his home this morning by webcam.
As a journalist of over 25 years, stories are what make my world turn.
Reporting live from the Dallas newsroom tonight, Jeff Crilley, Fox 4 News.
But in 2008, I took the jump from my familiar life and started a PR firm from my home.
We're talking about anyone with a camcorder like the one I'm using becomes a television network.
We started slowly growing the company, and we now have over 100 clients, and we've branched into the world of live digital broadcasting. I now own 8 different TV studios and have a huge team, and the stories that I now get to share are sometimes the most important of my life. Life has a funny way of coming around full circle. This is the Jeff Crilley Show.
Well, these days there are so many people in financial services. I'm sure you know a dozen of them, and in your mind you might not be able to separate one from the other. But I asked a question in the tease, and that is the financial services industry solving the wrong problem? It's a great question for my next guest, Eric Alexander. He is a financial advisor with the Benchmark Income Group. Thank you so much for coming on the show. Yeah. All right, so let's answer that question.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, so I think they are. I mean, I think that has been the fundamental challenge that the industry has been sort of trying to solve for the last, I don't know, probably 30 years. We all grew up with our parents having pensions and Social Security, and that for most of our clients, or most of the clients that we're reading in that age range, that made up 70-80% of their income when they hit retirement. And so as the industry came along, it was really only centered on, I got to get some rate of return. Everything else taken care of for mom and dad, they're good. But we've got a little bit of dollars, we got a few dollars left over, where do we go invest it and what do we do? And the whole industry really got built around this idea of rate of return. We've got these dollars to save, what does your risk look like? Let's get this in the market, let's put it in mutual funds, ETFs, whatever we're doing, and let's see if we can get the number bigger. And so the industry and the marketing all got centered around net worth. I want a big pot of gold, right? As if we're some sort of leprechaun at the end of the rainbow. As big as the bigger the leprechaun, the better, right? Mm-hmm. And what we found over the years in doing this and sort of watching the progression through time is my generation and older, right? We don't have pensions. It's sort of a thing of the past. And Social Security is starting to get a little bit, we're not sure, right? And so we're starting to have that conversation, well, net worth may not be what you're actually looking for, because the world has shifted, and then we can't talk about net worth anymore, because the joke is I don't take net worth to the grocery store. I take income to the grocery store, and so we've got to. I think the industry is slow to respond, but we've got to start changing the conversation between I want a pot of gold and I want cash flow, because everybody wants to retire and have their life look the same the day after as it was the day before, right? But the industry is not asking that question. And so I think a lot of times we're trying to push to that.
And I love it, Eric, that you share this advice freely. I urge my audience to look at their social media platforms. In fact, you and Mary Lyons, a friend of mine, have a great podcast. Yeah. It's called the Big Wealth Podcast. Let's roll a clip.
Right.
Hi, I'm Mary Lyons, and I am the Wealth Woman.
And I'm Eric Alexander from Benchmark Income Group.
And this is the Big Wealth Podcast.
Everything you've ever been taught about money is wrong.
But don't worry, we're here to help.
On this podcast, we'll use the same tools you already know to actually help set you free.
Free to do what you want with your time, with your money, and with your energy. Free to live your life the way you have dreamt about.
So we're going to talk about wealth knowledge, personal reflections, and the financial industry news of the day.
Welcome to the Big Wealth Podcast.
Well, it looks like you guys have fun.
Yeah, it's a blast. I get to talk to my friend all day, right? So how cool is that?
The rapport is just effortless between the two of you. Let's talk a little bit about this next generation, because I've been reading in the papers and the media have been talking about the greatest transfer of wealth in modern history. So you've got all these boomers who are retiring, and if they pass, they're leaving it to this next generation that might be like a meme stock generation, like, hey, we'll put it all on GameStop.
But we're Blockbuster. They've got to still be around somewhere, right?
Right. So are you concerned about this next generation, and are they getting good financial advice?
Yeah, I'm super concerned, right? One of the things that we talk about a lot is this idea of shirt sleeves to shirt sleeves in 3 generations, right? So, and we always sort of joke around the Paris Hilton version of the story, right? So dad had nothing, grew the empire, he's got a lot of money. The second generation kind of knew who dad was and how it got there, but didn't have the same discipline. It wasn't hungry to go grow the business. And they kind of do okay with it, but they're sort of burning through the money. And then that third generation has no connection to granddad now. They just know, they've only known really, really gobs of cash. They've known lots of money, but they didn't ever get taught how it was made, how it's transferred, how it's managed. They're just living on it, right? And so they burn it down, and then great grandkids come along and it's like, man, we don't have any money, we're poor, where did this go from? And they've got to start the cycle again. Yes. And so that's the big fear is, I think as a society, as an industry probably, we're not doing a good job at sort of teaching our kids sort of the value of the dollar, how to make it, how to earn it. Because that, just like we talked about a few minutes ago, right? The previous generation, we grew up with pensions. So your mission every day is convert oxygen into carbon dioxide, right? You just breathe out, go to work, and then everything's okay. But there wasn't a lot of like, okay, here's how a dollar works, and here's how to generate cash flow that never stops, right? And so I'm fearful for the next generation, absolutely.
And a lot of parents just don't ever have that financial talk with their kids, do they?
Right.
Mom, dad died, nobody knows where anything is, and because is it a taboo subject? Why are parents still reluctant to provide financial literacy for their children?
Oh, it's so taboo. We have sort of a kind of a strange joke in our offices. We'd have an easier time talking about your sex life than your money, right? And the sort of the running joke is, I don't feel like I'm qualified to teach you anything because I'm just making it up as I go, right? And mom and dad don't want to share anything bad. They don't want to share bad information. And there's a lot of fear and sort of shame, maybe, I guess, around money. Like I look and see social media and all these guys have lots of dollars, right? But I don't, and so maybe if I don't have a lot of money, then that means somehow I'm not managing my life better, or I'm not doing a good job. And so there's this double whammy, I think, that comes in of I'm afraid to ask questions because I'm afraid that not only am I going to look stupid, but I don't know enough about money to know that whoever's on the other end of that conversation, are they just trying to take advantage of me, or are they giving me good advice? And I don't know how to tell the difference.
Yes.
So there's just a lot of fear. So what we do when there's a lot of fear is we stop. We kind of back away from the table and we look around and go, well, what are you doing? Right? And I think it was, Campbell that said, right, you're the average of the 5 people that you hang around with most, right? And so we look around at all of our friends and we go, well, okay, well, that sounds good, I'll do that.
Well, it seems like most people in their 20s aren't really making many financial decisions that count, right? They're not. If there is a company 401k plan, they're not putting in their match. They're kind of living for today. But the miracle of compound interest, right? I mean, had you only started putting away even $5, $10 a week, that can turn into some real money.
Yeah, you got 40 or 50 years of compounding on your side, right? Yeah, and that's the trouble.
Let's talk about COVID, because I think COVID interrupted everybody's life, and now we have a bunch of millennials and Gen Zs that are job hopping again. There was this kind of this pent up, I hate my boss, and now I'm going to leave. Sometimes these are rash decisions to leave a position without a backup plan.
Yeah, totally. Well, I think momentum carries so much weight in our lives. We do stuff, and then 5 minutes in, 10 minutes in, 2 years, 10 years in, 20 years, we're like, why are we doing that? And it's like, well, I don't know, because it's what we did yesterday, and that's what we did 5 years ago, right? And nobody ever has this sort of conversation about, is this really where I should be or I want to be where my passion is, right? We heard a meme or a Facebook post the other day, and the guy says, I get all my great ideas in the shower. And I'm like, okay, why? And he says, well, it's the last place I'm actually allowed to be bored, because I don't have a phone in there, I don't have a TV in there, I don't have anything going on, right? So it's my only place to think. And I think COVID did that for a lot of people. It's like, it was a giant stop. Everybody stops, go home, right? And not that we were bored, because we were all sort of trying to figure out what the universe looked like, but it gave us a moment to go, okay, at some point this is going to blow over and we're going to go back. Right. What is this really what I want to go back to?
Yes.
Like, do I like the job? Do I like the boss? Do I like where I live? Right? We sort of anecdotally, we were talking to a client of ours, and she said that one of the problems they're having at their firm, and it's a relatively large firm, is that people have moved and didn't actually tell anybody that they moved. Wow. And not just like, I'm moving from Dallas to Allen. They moved from Dallas to Tennessee, or right? They're making big life changes moves, and never bothered to inform their boss that they weren't in the city anymore, right? And so I think people are going, I don't want to be here, or I don't want to do this thing. Yes. And I think it's creating some turmoil, but I think on the other end of it is people are looking for that purpose. Like, what am I doing that gives me joy, that helps me fulfill my mission?
Okay, we've got about a minute left.
Sorry.
So in the closing minute, how does somebody know when they need somebody like you, and what kind of questions should you be asking your financial advisor?
I think how they know that they need somebody new is that we had a moment earlier this week. We'll call her Susie, right? She's like, I'm making good money. Every time I change jobs and I level up, I'm leveling up fairly sizable in my income, and I've made 2 or 3x what I used to make, right? But I'm looking around and my 401k isn't really that much bigger than what it was. And she's a good saver. She's a great saver. But what's next? Like, I don't feel like I'm actually on a path. I feel like I'm just kind of clicking along, right? And at the end of that conversation, just by kind of helping her change the paradigm with which she answers a question, or what she's asking the question, we added another 180 grand into her lifestyle at retirement just by changing it and having that conversation of, are you where you should be? And how do you know what that is? How do you ask a better question? And so I think that's always the catalyst for people coming in, is like, I'm doing the thing, so what everybody else seems to be doing, but there's got to be more, right? That's the cue. It's like, I need help.
I can see why you're so successful. Eric Alexander, we're going to end with the website. It is benchmarkincome.com. Eric Alexander, thanks for being on the show.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it, Jeff.
You bet. That's it for now. We'll see you next time.